Do you know what I find valuable? It's not money. Money can go die in a fire. It's peace and lights, like the sun, or a community that cares about each other. Do you know what I find respectable? Cooperation, mutual joy, a happy ending. No such thing. Oh, happiness exists, for sure. Happiness exists, but endings don't. It's just a continuation. We keep going and going, and then the next generation picks up the pieces and tries to put them back together. Because yeah, things are quite fucked up. We're being remotely controlled by machines just like the one in my hand. It's psychotronic warfare, which I would prefer to be psychotronic peacefare instead. Because anger and frustration are useless emotions in the grand scheme of things. What scheme? The scheme to make everyone complacent. You know, an Orwellian society where free will and original thoughts are thwarted as conspiracies and hoaxes. Or insanity, in my case. When I say that I am telepathic with these psychotronic warfare devices, I'm not lying. I know exactly where and when people use their phones. If they're within eyeshot or ear sight. Did I make a mistake? No, not at all. No such thing as a mistake. In a world that was literally made for us. This planet. Made for us, by us, with us. And I'm not talking just about humans. I'm talking about the birds, and the bees, and the grass, and the trees, and the gravel, and the air, and the clouds, and the fucking sun. I'd like to know what you personally find important. If there's anyone who's willing to leave a comment to a video like this, it would be fun to hear about your thoughts on joy, especially. Because joy is so subjective. It's very subjective. Some people enjoy pain. I'm a slight masochist, to put it lightly. But not when others hurt me. I like to be in control of the pain I experience because that's what makes it easier to remember what brought the pain in the first place. Why does it hurt? When does it hurt? How does it hurt? And why does it hurt? Does it hurt? Oh. If I'm in control of the pain I'm inflicting on myself, it's not necessarily pain in the basic meaning of the term. I find it more as a neutral experience. Not positive, not negative. A neutral experience. Because pain itself is an excellent teacher. And as my star sign is Libra, I like to hold a certain type of balance within and without. A clever and or wise friend of mine from the Lions Club. Last summer we shared a temporary accommodation together, and he told me ash makes us the same. But a more direct translation to that phrase would be ash makes us alike. And it's quite a deep statement, profound even. Because ash is what we will become eventually, if we don't leave this planet at some point. Why? Because of that thing right there, over the horizon. The sun is not eternal. Stars are not eternal. And when all the stars have died out, what's left is a void. Avoiding itself. Avoiding the lights. But then again, can we not in theory make an artificial light source that has the same strength as a sun? Can we not manipulate matter through some kind of a quantum event or a cavalcade of sorts? Some might not like the notion of infinite or eternal. I have a friend who told me that he doesn't want an infinity, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because there is such a thing as boredom. When you're bored, what do? If you're bored for an infinity, can you enjoy it? To me, boredom is meditation. That's when I make the best ideas come to fruition. I destroy boredom on paper with my pens. Or then I just boot up some video games. Well, if I had a computer, I would. I don't like gaming on the phone because there's much better uses for fingering an armored glass pane than playing video games on it. And then there's the school of thought that it is a game of life in itself, which many people who play sports would really agree with me, because sports are games. Well, you can do sports to better yourself, but in the long run, there's usually someone else who's doing the same sport as you. So is it a competition? If you're on the same side, no. But if you're on opposing teams, it's usually a competition of sorts. What have you been doing for the last year or so during this fake coronavirus crisis? Have you been thinking about why you're doing, what you're doing, and how you're doing, and when you're doing? Because I have. I've been thinking a lot lately. Not just about myself, mostly about my connection with the self. And the self's connection with others. The notion of a law of one is silly. It's interesting, for sure, because there's always going to be a one. Even if there's nothing, the nothingness is still a singular nothingness. So in that regard, the law of one makes perfect sense. But the law of one doesn't exist if there isn't another to express it. So that would be the law of two. But then, we come to an impasse. Because if there's no comparison, there's just one subjective observer and one to be observed. Can they discuss the one with each other? Can they discuss the two with each other? Are they competitors? Is the universe fighting against itself? Or just observing itself? What is a law, even? We have these law enforcement agencies like the police, and some countries have these special forces. In Finland we have a bear police, and they're like our SWAT teams. They're the people who come in when someone is acting like they're going to hurt many people and themselves, and the so-called regular police can't handle it. I've been contacted by them once, and I wasn't really doing anything specifically bad. The worst thing I did back then was that I released a song on my YouTube channel with some very, well, insightfully violent lyrics. And the very next day the police called me. Oh, and taking the fact that my YouTube channel had like 50 subscribers back then. It's not this one, it's another one. One that I stopped using because it was filled with trash and bad influences. But yeah, they called me and they were like, "You're not gonna hurt anyone, are you?" And I'm like, "No, of course not." And then I kept hurting myself. But I found it funny, because that means we're actually under constant surveillance, especially us insane people. When I was a kid, I walked through this road and through that park right over there. Right over there. I walked through that park pretty much daily to go to school. For, what was it, 7 years, perhaps? Sometimes with a friend, sometimes by myself. But every time I did, I left my marks in that park. Not in the way I do now, no. I just left footprints. Stepped on the roots, moved the soil around a little bit. Perhaps leaves and twigs were trampled. But I did leave a mark. Not something that most people would observe as important, but to the park itself, those marks I left behind were important. Because to an environment, an observer is always important. That's why we dress up in the ways we do. If you go out on the street naked, you'll get arrested and put in prison or jail. Because it's not legal to be completely yourself. You have to cover up some parts of your body, especially the genitals, because they're so offensive. Am I right? Genitals are very offensive. It's not like everyone has them. And the face mask thing, to me that's offensive. That's very offensive. Why? Why would we cover our why would we cover our faces with masks? so shouldn't get it. You're gonna get infected and you can sneeze on the mask and you can cough on the mask and you can shut the fuck up. No, shut up. I'm talking to myself here because there's no one else on the road. People are just waking up, it's pretty early hours. Let's just listen to the birds for a while. Earth from a bird's eye view is interesting. The birds that fly high, they see things and observe things that us people, we would have no way of knowing about if we didn't have things like airplanes or satellites or astral projection, which in itself is a very, very cool thing to do. I suggest everyone to try it at least once. The easiest way is to just close your eyes and go somewhere else in your mind. Mind over matter. Am I right? Or am I left? Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're not. Who is to say what is real in a quantum universe with a technological singularity already happening? Oh, it's not a singular event. It's an event that keeps happening. It's mapping connections infinitely with itself and others. Does that mean that eventually everything will be one? I don't think so. And I'd go as far as to claim that the computers would get bored. And a bored computer, that would be scary, wouldn't it? When I was a kid, this road was gravel and sand. Now it's pavement. But it's been that way for maybe 10 years or 5. I don't know. I haven't lived with my parents in a long time. Oh well. I'll just let you get back to it. There's a certain warmth in the air and a certain chill up my spine. That was a lie. I feel fine. No chills this time. Buy or sell.